Hi, good day, guys. We're looking at our last lecture today, which is on Unit 9. So Unit 9 is all about health and our constructability and our responsibility. So we're looking at planning for safety, sustainability, and lean construction and waste management. Okay, lean construction and waste management we've already looked at, and sustainability as well. So today we're mostly going to look at our health and safety, and please remember that we did do these sections before, but we're quickly going to touch on it today. Okay, so getting right into it, we're looking at chapter 12, Trend Sustainability in the Built Environment, Environmental Health, Waste and Management is the unit's name. So basically looking at chapter 12, we start with our introduction, and basically good health and safety practices is part of good management and not a spate of additional consideration. So that's something that we've come accustomed with these days, and it's hammered in basically every single lecture that one has. If you're in your companies, in the major companies, maybe you will also have a culture of health and safety moments before each meeting. I know especially with some of the big corporate companies that is the case. Okay, it forms an integrated part of the planning and control process. Health relates to the physical and mental well-being of persons at work. Safety, in contrast, is concerned with protection of the workers, passers-by or visitors to site from physical injury. So please make sure that there is a difference between the health and the safety. That's why both are included in the name health and safety. Okay, then welfare forms part of is a combination of both. So welfare relates to the provision of facilities for those at work so as to maintain their health and well-being. Right. It begins with the top of the organization and it runs right through. So you will hear that people talk a lot about the culture within a company. Okay, so site managers are concerned with ensuring compliance with the law, making sure that there is an appropriate safety management system in place for the particular site in question, the identification of hazards that might give rise to accidents on site, assessing the risks arising from hazards in question and putting in place appropriate control measures to ensure that it is dealt with, devising safe systems of work for the project in hand. Okay, so just looking at a hierarchy of safety, this is figure 12.2 on page 237. This is a very important figure for me. Please note that I'm only showing a portion of it and not the entire graph or histogram organogram. Okay, so you have your chairperson, manager at the top. You usually have your construction director below him, and then the construction manager below him, your site manager, and then your site foreman. Then you've got your health and safety advisor, usually here in the middle, and you have your links. So on page 237 you will see the director's obligations may entail setting a health and safety policy, allocate suitable resources, monitor overall health and safety performance, or actively promote safety cultures, etc. Whereas your construction director usually monitors the performance, ensuring that staff comply with the health and safety policy, etc. Your site manager, on the other hand, will organize site to be that the site is running according to the requirements, and then you must know the regulations, ensure compliance with legislation, etc. Your site foreman will conduct toolbox talks and communicate to so the site foreman is responsible to actually convey that to the workers, the general workers on site, so with his toolbox talks, etc. Then there's a couple of other items that you need to know about. Is the operatives, the subcontractor coordination, and the subcontractors. Then on the health and safety advisor side, he needs to inform and advise, disseminate documentation and best practice training, conduct audits, and investigate accidents and report to his directors. So please go through that, and please know this hierarchy, and you must be able to discuss it in depth. So health and safety management, management system elements is usually comprised out of your policy, your organization, planning, measurement of performance, and then audit and review. Your safety of site operations, the contractor has the following duties with regard to his personnel: safe systems of work, ensuring safe means of handling, use, storage and transport of articles, provision of information, instructions, training and supervision, safe place of work, safe working environment, etc. Okay, so general stuff that you probably already know. Okay guys, so getting to risk assessments, safety method statements. Remember how important this is. Please go through this health and safety method statement. It's very important. You've known how I have hammered on method statements. Please note that you must be able to differentiate between a health and safety measurement or method statement and a general one. So please be aware of that. So you can go through this at your own leisure. This is also a handy template that you can use on site. Then the contractor's risk assessment. This is also very important, very practical for you guys. Look at the items that has to be included in it. You conduct your sheet piling. For this is now the operation. Potential hazards is then given. Your risk assessment, your hierarchy. So I'm going to show on the next slide. I've got an example. It's usually with your risk histograms that you have. There's lots of them, examples on the internet. I'm just going to show you one of them. And then just the date, the practicality of it, training certificates needed, actions needed, and the PPE required. So control measures is listed here, and then it flows over to your practical implementation, which is this bottom line here at the bottom. Okay, so hazards and risk, for instance, that you can identify. This is just some examples that's given in the book, but it's working at height, working from a ladder, deep excavations, moving plant or vehicles, mixing mortar and plaster, machining wood, asbestos, solvents, toxic substances, etc. Okay, then identification of hazards. So this is a nice little histogram that you can use. This is not that important for our purposes. It will, however, it is important for you to go through this to enable you to answer discussion questions in the exam. So please go through this. This is also a very good example for your practical work situation. So they've got a couple of examples on this side, and then it's discussed here at the bottom in depth. So it's just identifying hazards, and then as per the previous slide, it is how it's mitigated and so forth. Okay, so this is the risk evaluation form that you usually get to see whether it's moderate. You remember that M, H, and okay, extreme wasn't on there, and then there was what the other and low. So the previous one only had a medium, moderate, and low rating. So it will differ from what type of scale that you use. So, but you get basically a quantitative risk assessment. This is measurable, and quantitative risk assessments, judgment and experience. So for the top management, usually if you go through this assessment of the likelihood, so you first look at the likelihood that something may happen, and then the consequence, and you get to either high, medium, low, or extreme rating for that item. Your top management will automatically know who needs to look at certain items. For instance, if it's a moderate risk, a certain general manager can look at it. If it's low, then usually maybe the construction manager may look at it. If it is a extreme item, then usually they have specialists that look at this health and safety items, depending on the size of your company. But that is more or less the rationale behind identification of hazards. And also it depends on the identification, who has signing off authority on those items. Okay, so site planning, basically just very straightforward. You site perimeters, access, site accommodation, waste disposal, traffic, overheads, lighting. Again, nice reading work for your discussions during the exams. And it's just the form continued. This is figure 12.7. This is on page 250, and this is just the second part of it. Excavations, working at heights, manual handling. Okay, so this is coming to this form, pressures on health and safety. This is very important for me, so you must be able to discuss and draw this for me. So you've got your internal processes and you've got your external pressures. So you've got internal pressures, external pressures. So you've got, for instance, dangers, clients, environment, the law, health and safety regulations, construction regulations, weather, and then you've got where the construction meets the internal meets the external perimeters. Front line was the workers, supporting organization. And you've got the blunt end. This is where the culture is cultivated. Okay, and you've got your technical support, resources, equipment, training, IT support, your program, profit target, and your budget, which is your external or your internal pressures. So very important to be able to discuss this. It also helps if you can draw this to show what you're actually discussing. Then coming to a conclusion, the deeper causes of accidents are, in contrast to individual causes of accidents, it's usually poor work planning, lack of safety systems, poor communication, and poor health and safety culture. Here you can see the word culture comes in. Okay, thanks guys. So you can see it's very straightforward. There's nothing funny about it. Just something to note that the stuff that I've skipped is it's confined to Britain, so I didn't focus too much on it. Please just focus on these areas that I actually highlighted, and remember that this is not necessarily the full scope of what is actually discussed. For instance, that his organogram that I discussed, please learn the stuff that goes with that. So please don't just learn those 5 items, you must be able to discuss it. Thank you guys.